My wife's lover flaunts to me. I'm not mad or anything. Instead, I introduce him to a girl who's pretty but not too bright and loaded. He was totally taken aback. Once he snagged her, he came over with my wife's hand in his, saying he wanted to call me Big Brother. Great, we all just keep fooling each other. I got a text. It's Frank. He's my wife Cindy's childhood buddy. They've known each other forever. I open it. It's a selfie of him with an arm draped over his shoulder. The wrist is wearing a bracelet I know all too well. I don't even need to see the black mole near the thumb. I know it's Cindy's arm for sure. I reply with a question mark. The next second, the photo in the chat is retracted. He sends me a voice message. It's basically, sorry man, sent it to you by mistake. Meant to send it to Cindy, but our shared profile pictures got me mixed up. Don't read into it. No point in replying to nonsense like that. Seeing that I didn't respond, a few minutes later, he hits me up again. Gary, you mad? Don't be mad. Cindy and I just play around like that. We're just like that. She sees me as a little brother. Really, don't get the wrong idea. This is just how we are. I toss my phone aside and get back to work. I ain't got no time for this. I get home, and right behind me is Cindy. She's changing shoes at the doorway and looks up at me, hesitating to say something. Spit it out. I'm cozied up with my laptop on the couch, giving her a quick glance. Frank's saying you're mad at him. He's freaking out, called me several times to ask for my help to calm you down. I just go, not agreeing or disagreeing. What do you say? Still upset? Cindy gets all up in my face, all bold and stuff. Why bother explaining? You women love to play dumb. I know my man's not petty. If you ain't mad, just shoot Frank a message back. He's losing his mind, you know how he can't sleep with stuff weighing on him, he'll end up bugging me. Him bugging you? I chuckle coldly. Isn't that nice for you then? Won't feel lonely at night. What on earth are you talking about? Cindy scoffs. He's just an immature brat. Don't let him get to you. Oh, I ask suddenly, still no girlfriend? He's playing the field. Bit picky, always got something to complain about. Looks like they've been in touch quite a bit. She's gotta know all the deets on his dating life. I put my laptop down, sit cross-legged on the couch, look up at Cindy and say, I have a friend, pretty nice, rich too. Wanna set her up with Frank? Your friend? Cindy sits down next to me, curious. Which friend? Do I know them? Are they trustworthy? Frank's a tough cookie. Can she handle him? Definitely reliable. I'm betting $1,000 she's way better than anyone he's met. Got major wealth, never worry about money again. Cindy ponders for a moment and then agrees. Okay, I'll hit Frank up, see if he's interested. The next day, while at work, Cindy texts me saying Frank's up for meeting the girl I mentioned. But something feels off to me. The message came with a reaction image I've never seen her use before, and she's been throwing exclamation marks around like confetti. Not her style. I think for a bit, then reply, you mean that tall, beautiful, funny girl, right? Based on how well I know her, if it was Cindy texting, she'd go, aren't we talking about the one girl here? Now I'm reading the reply in silence. Is this girl really that good? The focus on the girl gives it away. The person texting ain't Cindy. It's Frank using her profile. I type quickly. Of course, if she weren't great, I wouldn't introduce her to Frank. I know you two are super tight, almost closer than me. Even though you're my husband, Frank's my childhood buddy, different kind of bond. Gotta look out for him. Man, I wanna laugh. How can anyone shamelessly say this stuff? Before long, the message gets retracted. The next reply is clearly in Cindy's tone. Guess her phone's back under her control now. That night, Cindy leans over as I handle work emails, all mysterious and stuff. That girl's really legit. Huh? I push her head away, annoyed. Can you stop? Whether she's good or not, Frank can figure out himself. Not like he's a toddler. You know how immature he is, always getting played. Halfway through, she notices I'm not into it and switches gears. Not doubting your introduction, just want to verify. I nod. Fine, I won't bother then. Here I am trying to help him out and I get scrutinized instead. None of my business. Seeing I'm not happy, Cindy quickly backtracks. I didn't mean it like that. I just see Frank as a little brother, just trying to be careful for his sake. Don't you want what's best for him? I side-eye her. Oh, you're so thoughtful. Frank really is on my wife's wavelength. Just before sleep, he texts, Gary, can I meet that girl you mentioned? I look at the message and decide not to reply. After like 10 minutes, he couldn't hold back and texts again. Gary, cleared my weekend schedule. I'm ready anytime. He's keen. I glance at my phone, shoot back a quick message. Busy now, later. Alright, hit me up. I toss the phone aside, ready to binge watch shows with some chips. That night, I casually bring it up with Cindy. That girl for Frank? She's one of my middle school pals. Tall, beautiful, real looker. Perfect for Frank, who's all into appearances. She glanced at me and said, Don't just describe their looks. Beauty can't be eaten. Talk about their other qualities too. You don't get it. For Frank, looks take precedence over money. Gotta be visually appealing to even consider getting to know someone, right? Cindy fell into deep thought and didn't say anything. The next morning, Frank came looking for me. Gary, are you free? Help me set up a date with that girl. I replied, Don't rush. She's got her own dating schedule. Tons of matchmakers have already lined up to set her up. I can't just cut in line, you know? He sent me a selfie saying, Send her this photo. It'll definitely let me skip the line. The photo was a hazy selfie of him where you couldn't make out his features. Yet, in person, he's a straightforward, no-nonsense kind of guy. I'll try, but I heard she's been going out with models and actors lately. I'm worried. Don't worry. I won't lose. Frank was super confident. It's hard to say, but I wished him luck. After a 2-week delay, Frank's excitement to meet this girl reached a peak. I told him the girl was free this weekend and to prepare to meet her. The next day was the weekend. I got to the designated restaurant first. It was a cozy, quiet little place that served Western cuisine. The weather was just right with a pleasant breeze. I picked a spot on the patio where I could see anyone coming in. Before long, the girl arrived. I waved to get her attention. Her name is Emily, and she was undeniably pretty, standing out in the crowd. When she sat down, she kept looking around. Where's the guy you talked about? I reassured her, don't worry. Just then, the waiter brought our drinks. I ordered an iced Americano for Emily and a hot chocolate for Frank. You can say the hot chocolate was specially ordered for him. I winked at her. She nodded enthusiastically. Got it. About 10 minutes past our scheduled time, and Frank still wasn't there. I called him, and I could hear him fumbling with things on the other end. Another half an hour went by when I finally spotted a familiar face at the entrance. He's here, I informed Emily. She straightened up, ready to make a good impression. Frank, over here, I called out. When he sat down, I noticed he might have gone a bit overboard with his outfit. He had on a flamboyant hat and a t-shirt with a blinding slogan. It was attention-grabbing, to say the least. Probably rushed on his way here. His brow was sweaty, with hair sticking to his forehead. Frank, this is Emily, I introduced them. And Emily, here's Frank. At first glance, Frank looked at Emily but then shyly looked away, seemingly pleased. Emily paused for a moment and shot me a knowing look when Frank wasn't looking. I pretended not to notice. Frank, Emily works as a swimming instructor at a private gym. She's quite popular and has a stable income. Just the kind of girl you'd like, right? Anything else you'd like to know, just ask. Frank briefly looked up at her and then down again. Gary, you're making me shy. No worries. Just ask away. I'm an open book, Emily lightened the mood. Frank, normally so flirty with Cindy, was unusually shy and reserved. As the awkward silence dragged on, Emily spoke up first. Frank, how did you and Gary meet? He couldn't stop talking about you. Me? Frank glanced my way. Honestly, I've known his wife since childhood. We've still stayed in touch, which is how I got to know Gary. Yeah, I added. He and my wife are close. That came out kinda odd. Frank quickly added, just as friends, more like siblings. We don't hang out all the time or anything. Emily understood and asked, what about hobbies? Frank was caught off guard. I subtly knocked on the table and he caught on, blurting out, working out and watching sports. How about expenses? I lightly coughed, what's money when it comes to making your heart happy? And with that, the topic safely moved on. After lunch, we took a stroll and Emily drove us back. Her car was a sleek, shiny black Benz. Frank's eyes were glued to it. I nudged him to be cool. He snapped out of it and composed himself. He took the front seat and quietly said, "Had a great time today. Thanks for the ride." Emily grinned, "My pleasure." Hearing the interaction, I thought they had a chance. The original plan was to drop Frank off first because he lived closer. But he insisted on hanging out at my place. So he stayed in the car a little longer, finally getting out at my complex. "Thanks. Let's hang out again," Frank invited. Emily agreed enthusiastically. As her car drove off, leaving us with just the tail lights, Frank stood there staring. I crossed my arms. "You coming? 'Cause I'm heading in." Finally snapping out of it, he ran over. When we got inside, Cindy was on the couch watching TV. She didn't show much interest until she saw Frank. Her face showed surprise. "You're here too? Why can't I come over?" Frank laughed, back to his usual self, playfully putting his arm around Cindy. Cindy frowned slightly. "You just met her. How do you know she's reliable? If Gary recommends someone, do you doubt his judgment?" I went to the kitchen to slice some fruit. When I came back, they were sitting close on the couch, Frank's arm still around Cindy. I calmly put the fruit on the table, then took a seat across from them and asked, "How was today's date? Think it might work out? If so, I can help keep things rolling." "Got it." Frank excitedly jumped over from Cindy's side and sat closer to me. "Gary, sing my praises in front of her. I think she's perfect, exactly my type." "Oh?" I tilted my head. "Wasn't Cindy your standard of beauty before?" Cindy turned her head to look at him. He grabbed her hand and placed it on his knee, acting all cute. "Each has their own charm. It's different." "You little rascal." She tapped his forehead helplessly. "You're such a handful." I just quietly watched their interaction. Emily had asked me to invite Gary camping. When I told Gary, he agreed right away and even suggested we check out camping gear together. I agreed. But on the shopping day, Cindy showed up too. As her husband, I didn't know she'd be joining us until she got there. Well, what a surprise. "Gary, I invited Cindy along. You're not mad, right?" I forced a smile. "Why would I be? She's my wife. I'm just happy she's here." He grinned, putting an arm around Cindy's shoulders. "She's here to pay for everything." I smiled and turned to Cindy. "What about me? Can I benefit from Frank's charm and get a set too?" She didn't notice my tone and grandly waved her hand. Of course, today Cindy is treating. The two of them were completely ignoring my existence. Frank picked out a set, checked the tag, then glanced at Cindy from a distance. After he left, I checked the tag he'd looked at. 998. He started yelling for Cindy, so loud that I could hear him while I was on a call at the entrance. When I came back in, Frank was dragging Cindy around, looking at more stuff. "How about this?" Frank held something up for her to see. Cindy squinted at it, contemplating. "Ma'am, you and your boyfriend have great taste. This is our latest couple set. Want to get it?" The sales clerk approached, eagerly pitching to Cindy. Her face froze, and she turned looking for me, nervously telling the clerk, "You've got it wrong. He's just a friend. That one's my partner." "Oh?" The clerk turned to look at me, then at Frank, quickly apologizing. Sorry. Frank interrupted their conversation, insisting, "Just tell me, does it look good?" "Not bad." Cindy walked over to me, nudging me with her elbow. "What do you think?" I chuckled, tilting my head at her. "My opinion shouldn't matter as much as yours." "Come on," she said, "you know how it is with Frank and me. Don't overthink it." The clerk just got confused. "Oh, really?" I crossed my arms, sitting on the couch, ignoring her. She stuck to me like glue, sitting next to me. "Cindy, help me look again," Frank yelled. The couch blocked my view of Frank, making her restless. I kindly reminded her, "He's calling you." She might have noticed my mood, but Frank was persistent. She told me she'd be right back. 5 minutes later, she returned, sitting right next to me again. "Why aren't you picking anything? Didn't we agree you and Frank could get whatever you liked?" I smirked coldly. "Thanks, Cindy. But I'm not planning on dating right now. Maybe next time I need dating material, I'll let you handle it. Cindy shot me a glance, nonsense. Then Frank came over with clothes, giving Cindy a meaningful look. Clearly, he was expecting her to pay. Cindy didn't even glance at me. She got up and headed to the checkout. Wow, dropping nearly $1,000 without blinking to buy him something. After a while, Cindy came back with a fancy shopping bag. Frank took the bag. Thanks, Cindy. When I get married, you'll be at the head table for sure. Cindy smiled. I'm counting on it. Inside, I chuckled coldly, realizing I'm the outsider here. On the camping day, Emily came early to pick us up. Frank was all smiles. Emily had chosen the site and prepared all the gear with great attention to detail. The lunch was made by Emily using simple gear, combined with the natural beauty around us. It was quite a treat. Frank, what do you do for a living? I never asked. Emily inquired. Oh, I manage the family business now. She looked satisfied. That's great. Hearing her compliment, Frank humbly waved it off. It's okay. Just making a living. And your parents? What do they do? My folks have pensions. They're retiring soon after working hard all their lives. Emily nodded often. I'm an only child too, no family pressure. I eat well, no worries. When Frank went to the restroom, Emily leaned in to me. His parents have pensions, quite a bit probably. They're government employees, right? I vaguely replied, more or less. She murmured, that's nice. As the sun set, we packed up and headed back. On the ride home, I sat in the back, listening to those two excitedly chatting up front. Their topics ranged from favorite pets to kids' genders. Sounds like they're hitting it off. Their subsequent dates were just Emily and Frank. They both relayed their date details to me, letting me play matchmaker. I offered constructive feedback, which helped them happily date for 7 or 8 times, officially becoming a couple with deepening feelings. Frank officially had a girlfriend, so he saw less of Cindy. Even when we rarely met, Frank brought Emily. When Emily wasn't around, he threw an arm over Cindy's shoulder, grinning, wanting to call me his brother. All because I helped him find his perfect match. When Emily came back after parking, Frank straightened up like a cat seeing a mouse. He pulled his hand back, sat properly, and even left a space between him and Cindy. Turns out he does no boundaries. Sometimes he just doesn't want to follow them. Cindy seemed a bit uneasy with his sudden distance. Every now and then, she'd ask me if Emily was really trustworthy. Patiently, I advised her to discuss it with Frank first. Don't just jump in questioning his girlfriend. Start with showing some concern for his personal life, like asking how his day's going, then ease into the topic. Cindy contemplated this and nodded. Marriage needs some impulsiveness. It's the young folks who act on impulse the most. Then, Cindy saw on social media that Frank had registered for marriage, letting out a surprised yell. I glanced at her phone and asked, "What's up? You rediscovering your roots or something?" No, she handed me her phone. They just met. And they're already getting married? Does he even understand what it means to get married? He doesn't know anything. I sighed. He's a grown-up. He knows what he's doing, right? Why are you so shocked? Are you planning to clean up his mess if it goes south? He's just a kid who doesn't get anything. Makes me worried, Cindy replied. If you're so worried, maybe you should volunteer to be his mom. I smirked. His real mom hasn't even stepped in, and here you are, barking like a fake mom. Cindy glared. Do you have to be so mean? I snapped. Cindy, I'm done. I'm giving you freedom. Go find him. Be his side chick or his second mom, whatever. She stood there stunned. Why the sudden outburst? Why? I laughed coldly. You never cared about my feelings. I've had enough of this. Confused, she muttered. What? You mean with Frank? She sighed. Why can't I make you understand? I grew up with Frank. He's like a brother. Sometimes we're just close. You can't possibly be jealous of that, right? Sure. Call me petty or jealous. Either way, this isn't working. Disgusted, I pointed at her. Seeing you both makes me sick. While I was packing to move out, Frank called. Gary, Cindy's been calling me non-stop, asking me to explain so you don't stay upset with her. I'm not upset, I said firmly. This is well thought out. It's clear she's into you and I'm done. Our fight is just giving her a chance to run to you. Consider this, why would she call you to mediate our argument? Her emotional involvement is obvious. Imagine if Emily did the same with another guy while you're fighting. Wouldn't that make you furious? Silence. Maybe he didn't know how to argue back. He finally said, Gary, but I'm not Cindy's thing. We have nothing. We're just friends. Oh, really? I don't believe it, I replied. For real, we were like siblings. She sees me as her brother. Quietly, I confessed, okay, here's a secret. She doesn't. She sees you as a man she likes. When drunk, she calls your name. Your marriage registration hit her hard. I worry she might cause a scene at your wedding. The silence grew deafening. Watch out, I warned. Cindy seems calm. But if she snaps, who knows what she'll tell Emily? Surely, you don't want her to know about those touches between you two? What touches, Gary? Nothing between us is like that. Really? I challenged, think about the time spent. You've got two choices. Ignore her or bring her into your married life. Frank paused, maybe thinking I was out of my mind. I'll think it over, Gary. But there's nothing between us. I'm married now, no threat to you. No threat? I picked up on that, so you knew there was worry before? You're right. I shouldn't worry anymore. I chuckled. But now, it's your turn. With Cindy back on the market, she might pursue you. Considering you just got married, she might think her history with you outweighs everything. Better watch out. Cindy won't do that. Frank tried to reassure me. Won't she? I teased. Wait and see how often she suddenly starts contacting you. I hung up, letting him wonder. I'd planted seeds of doubt, waiting for them to blow up. Cindy kept calling, but I didn't answer. I didn't give anyone my new address for peace and quiet. Now, with nowhere else to go, she'll run to him. I'm waiting to see how it unfolds. Later, Emily called, and right away, she grilled me, what's going on with your girlfriend and Frank? Pretending to be clueless, I replied, are you sure you called the right person? If you want answers, maybe ask Cindy herself. I'm separated from her now, working through the process. Even if we were still together, it's between her and your guy. What do you expect me to do? Tie her up? She was left speechless by my rant and after a pause said, I didn't mean it like that. I was just mad. Did you know Cindy's been calling Frank obsessively? Frank keeps rejecting her calls, but she won't stop. It's like she's out for revenge. I didn't know and I don't want to know. Frank said they grew up together and have nothing more. I thought you should understand, so I'm asking you. I don't want to get involved in this mess. One minute they'll say I'm gossiping and next I'll get the blame. Didn't you introduce him to me? Shouldn't you know him best? I was just ready to blow up and she hit a nerve, so I decided to give it my all. First, wasn't it you who kept bugging me and my friends, asking us to introduce you to rich people like a clingy band-aid? Secondly, you were the one dating and marrying the guy, not me. He's an adult. You should know what kind of person he is. You're expecting everyone to prepare everything for you? Might as well have someone stand in for the wedding night too. Being a new mom would be easier, wouldn't it? Gary, how can you say that? What, now that you've landed a rich guy, I can't say anything to you. All right, let me ask you. Other than having a good look, what's so special about you? We both know your family background. Your monthly earnings can't even cover the expenses for that rented Mercedes-Benz of yours. Your brothers are supporting you, so what gives you the right to question me? Her voice quieted and the surrounding noise hushed. I imagined she covered the phone, not wanting anyone to hear. A light, all right. We were classmates. Do you really have to make it so ugly? I won't say anything more. You started this, I retorted. Fine, that's my bad. Come early for the wedding, I'll make it up to you. I had a feeling. This relationship was about to fall apart, and I was eager to see it happen. Getting a marriage certificate from the civil registry is free, so people often act impulsively. But weddings can't be rushed because they involve lots of money and planning. Many relationships break down over bride price and what both parties invest, and that's typically why. I sat calmly in the cafe, sipping my coffee. Frank stormed in with a backpack, venting his frustration. Gary, you have no idea how angry I am. Emily wants a grand wedding and expects me to pay the bulk. She's got a rich family and wants us to pick up the tab. And then she suggests a promissory note for the dowry. Can you believe that? I feigned a grave interest as he paused, staring at me. Gary, are you even listening? I put down my cup. So, you called me here just to whine about petty domestic issues? Sorry, I just escaped all that annoying stuff. I don't want to relive it now. If that's it, I'll head out. No, Gary. I want to ask, didn't you say Emily's family was wealthy? Why is she being so stingy now? These two asking outsiders about their partners. Maybe it's just her personality, I replied offhandedly. Even millionaires can be stingy. You gotta accept that people can be different. But didn't you say, sorry, Frank, you must have misunderstood. I just arranged for you two to meet. She wasn't some product I sold, so I don't offer after-sales support. Gary, you introduced us. I trusted you, so you should help me out. He put on a stern face. I paused, sat back down, crossed my arms, and leisurely asked, and how do you expect me to help? Just talk to her, make her bear the wedding costs. Shamelessly, he added, our family's just getting by with a small store. We don't have that kind of money. Plus, my parents are counting on this rich daughter-in-law to improve our living conditions. Honestly straightforward. What about your parents' pension you mentioned? I mumbled. That's just the village chief helping us get a poverty quota. We get $800 a month. I nodded frequently. These two were quite the match. I agreed to intervene. Later, I met up with Emily. Once we sat down, I cut to the chase. You're this close to marrying Frank, and you're getting hung up on a dowry? She frowned. You know my situation. I've got a bunch of older sisters all settled down. I've been relying on them just to cover daily expenses. How can I ask them for big money for a dowry? You're missing the point, I advised her. You suggested a promissory note for the dowry, right? Instead of giving it directly and looking stingy, give it to a finance company. Basically, a third party holds it as a dowry. She considered it, her mind racing. That does make sense. I added fuel to the fire. And remember, once married, the debt's shared legally. Won't he help you pay it off? Course he cares about you. Better to have trouble down the line than now, don't you think? You'd regret losing such a good catch, right? Yeah, I guess. Think about it. Don't let Frank be unhappy. He's been so stressed he can barely sleep. Go patch things up. With that, I walked away. The seeds of discord I planted tonight would ensure the flames ignited. I insisted on a divorce, even posting Cindy and Frank's cozy photos in the family chat. It silenced those opposing it. Anyone who dared to speak up, I would have embarrassed with rumors of attractive strangers. Folks never understand the pain until it hits them directly. Cindy grew fed up and impulsively signed the divorce papers. After that, I relaxed and even encouraged her to pursue Frank. Her eyes widened in shock. Why are you still stuck on this? There was nothing between us. Then why so uptight? It's not like you were upset about his quick wedding while you're freshly divorced? No. She turned away. Hasn't he been aloof and avoiding you recently? Think about it. You could maintain a connection while married. But as soon as he's hitched, he's indifferent, like you're strangers. Isn't that unfair? Stop making things up. I don't feel that way. Are you sure? Not even a little betrayed? I looked at her sympathetically. But Frank kept calling me over and over, asking me to keep you from messing with his happy life anymore. But given our situation, what right do I have to tell you what to do? Is this true? Did he really say that? Cindy looked back at me, surprised and serious. I nodded seriously. He? She hesitated, probably because I was there, so she didn't continue. I didn't care. I just needed to amplify that seed of doubt within her. The waters were already muddy enough. On a nice sunny day, this whole situation started to unravel like a domino effect, setting off a chain of explosions. My phone was blowing up. Whatever, I could just turn it off. By the time I turned it back on, I was already on vacation in Thailand. When I checked my messages, they were full of complaints from Frank and Emily. What a pair. Why do they both come running to me when they fight? I opened a message from Frank and skimmed through it. Gary, you said Emily comes from a wealthy family and is just being a swim coach for kicks. But that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Everything she has is borrowed. Every single thing. And now she expects me to pay it back with her. So all that money she was spending on me was just to get me to help her pay off her debts? I got completely duped by you. Get back here and sort this out for me. Is she even for real? Everything she has is fake, even the house and car. She's just a broke nobody. Then I checked the message from Emily. You're a liar, aren't you? You're even better at lying than I am. Frank is a fraud, doesn't have anything, poorer than me, even lives off welfare. All that stuff about his family being in public service is bogus. He's actually broke. You owe me my youth and money back. I put up with his nasty temper, his 3 inches of foundation, and short legs, thinking he was loaded, and it turns out everything's fake. Now I'm stuck with a ton of debt. And then there was a little essay from Cindy. I went to see him yesterday, but he was really upset. I asked him about it, but he didn't tell me why, just kept crying, saying you're a liar. Do you know what happened? Gary, did you really set Frank up with someone who's broke? You're gonna ruin him, you know that, right? He doesn't know any better. He trusted you because I do, and now you've deceived him? What you're doing isn't right. What's right or wrong is none of my concern. This whole plan went off without a hitch thanks to all these fools playing their parts. If even one person had been genuine, this wouldn't have happened at all. One's all about pretending they're rolling in it to impress and hope for a windfall in the future. The other's trying to craft an image of a perfect partner to secure the life they've imagined, while their whole family counts on this sugar daddy story to change their fortunes. I have to say, they worked together flawlessly, ending up at the altar. All I did was add a touch of virtual reality to their illusions. When they were crafting these personas, both must have been thinking the other's a sucker, but little did they know. They were the real fools. And Cindy? She's just a love-struck hanger-on, left with nothing in the end. Meeting such a bizarre bunch, guess I must have done something real bad in a past life. I tossed my phone aside. Why bother with the chaos of their lives? I just live for my own happiness. I grinned, flashing a peace sign at the camera. The picture came out. I was surrounded by a crowd of beauties, shining a bright smile.